Hello, Lucy, and welcome to the Transform Your Future podcast. How are you doing today?
I am doing wonderful. I'm excited to be here. Thank you so much, Eddie, for having me on your show.
Yes, I've been looking forward to this all week. I know we've been going back and forth, and we've got a lot of things that we both really enjoy talking about. So this is going to be good. So let's jump right in. Lucy, let's talk a little bit about your background and how you ended up getting involved in this idea of helping other people to uncover their greatness and live a life, more fulfilling life.
Yeah, absolutely. So like one of my fundamental pillars is I feel like it's so important to live, lead, and inspire by example. And so through my and I feel like everybody is on their own journey, their own spiritual, unique journey. And depending on how awake they are, how aware they are, how conscious they are, they're going to be able to grow and essentially very deliberately create the life of their dreams if they're willing to just live life a little bit more consciously. And so, my background is horses. So I grew up just outside of Detroit, in the suburbs with two blue collar family or blue collar parents, and I was obsessed with horses ever since I can remember. I mean, Napoleon Hill says that the starting point for all achievement is a burning desire. And I can say with absolute certainty that from the time I can remember, I was just always
Yes.
obsessed with horses. So, of course, I would beg my dad every single day, please buy me a horse. And with my mom having two factory jobs, it was just out of the realm of possibilities. So I did the only thing that I knew how to do, which was just pray. And I remember praying at night and being like, Dear God, please let me just dream that I'm riding horses in my dreams. So that way it actually feels like I'm doing it in real life. Well, it wasn't long before I decided I had to take matters into my own hands. So the day that I turned 16 was the day that I got my driver's license and the same day that I put my ad on Craigslist. So I decided to create this Craigslist ad that said, I will ride your horse for free. And
Mhm.
that is when I discovered if you can follow your passion and find out where your talents lie, where your skill set lies, and exploit that in the service of others, you're going to find unprecedented success and true fulfillment on the other side
Mm.
of service. So that's kind of how my horseback riding career started. I ended up meeting a horse dealer who would get in like 50 horses in a week, and I had to ride everything, and I had to
Mm.
sell it fast, quick, and cheap. And the other thing is I didn't have any formal education, so I'm getting bucked off, thrown off, flipped over on, I mean, you name it, and I experienced it, but it was very much so like a failing forward.
Calluses and bruises.
Yeah, the works. And so I never gave up on my dream. It was always like a failing forward moment. No matter how many times the horse threw me off, no matter how many times I ate dirt, it's just so important to stay laser focused on your dream, on your goals, and whatever obstacle is thrown your way, just know that you can live, learn, and come back better and stronger after having experienced that. Um, I ended up selling horses all throughout high school, all throughout college. And after college, I got scooped up into the corporate world where I was still selling horses on the side. And in my corporate job, I was doing Excel spreadsheets, and these Excel spreadsheets were just miles and miles of rows and columns long. But I was at the same time, I had my headphones in and I was listening to Dr. Wayne Dyer. And
Mm.
so he really helped form my foundation. And then through listening to Dr. Wayne Dyer, I stumbled upon the teachings of Abraham Hicks. And then when I was 22 years old, I went to my first Abraham Hicks workshop, which kickstarted my meditation journey, which
Mm.
transformed everything. Little by little, I'm learning all of these just different techniques and strategies on how to very deliberately, very intentionally create the reality of your dreams. And so I started implementing this in my life, in my business. And sure enough, I ended up quitting my corporate job. Scariest thing I've ever done. Just taking a leap of faith and
Mhm.
a chance on myself. But despite the fact that it was one of the scariest decisions I've made, it was one of the most rewarding decisions. And so I went on to build and scale a 7-figure business where I now buy, train, and sell horses all over the country. And I accidentally opened up one of Michigan's largest public trail riding companies just because I wanted to share just horseback ride. I wanted to share my favorite hobby with the world. And so I don't say all of this to say, oh, hey, look at me. I say all of this because it's like, if I can do it, then you can do it too. And now what I'm obsessed with is teaching people basically how to leverage the laws of the universe, really understanding quantum physics and how it plays a fundamental role in every single moment of your life, how we are either deliberate creators or how we're default creators, and how if we're feeling stressed or overwhelmed, or just full of fear or lack or whatever low vibrational feeling it might be, like there is a way out. And not only is there a way out, but there's just brilliant possibilities that await us if we're willing to put the work in.
That's great. You said a whole lot. You said a whole lot there that we can unpack. And what comes to mind first is, I've had many times that, although like I was living my passion, I was doing what I wanted to do, what I felt I was inspired to do, what I felt since I was a young kid that always was driving me, what I was interested in. Like for example, for me, I spent all my free time reading and watching movies and researching stuff about movies, about the actors, about the directors, about the story, about the screenplays. Like I was just obsessed with that whole thing from a very young age. So at one time I said, this is something that I love. And I had worked in the field, but at one time I just thought, like, why don't I really go all in with this? Like, why am I just playing around with this? Because I felt called, and I did it. But that's not really what I wanted to talk about. I just wanted to say, so while I'm doing that, though, I had major obstacles. I had major setbacks. Things happened. And what I want to talk to you about first is, so have you experienced some setbacks in your journey while you're building this business and doing these things? And what was your process to get back on track?
Yeah, I think there's so many obstacles. I don't know which one to pick. Like the first obstacle might have been when I was working at my corporate job. I had the world's worst boss ever. He was the most negative, the most pessimistic, the most miserable human being you could possibly imagine. And here I am, like I said, like straight out of college, just radiating positivity and joy. So I'm sure I probably annoyed him just as much as he bothered me. And I had to travel. We had to travel all over the country to different manufacturing plants. And so that was really difficult. And so I think it was all about just in that sense, just showing grace and always looking for that silver lining, always looking for the good, seeking out the good, because where our focus goes, our energy flows. And whatever we place our focus on is what we're going to create more of and attract more of and experience more of. Even if I was in, I don't know, the not an ideal situation, I was always trying to just stay positive, stay optimistic, and see the good in all things. And then after I quit my corporate job, and then it was just me selling horses, it was scary. Especially, horses are a seasonal gig, right? Especially being in Michigan, it's not nice in the wintertime. The horses slow down, trail riding slows down, horse sales, I don't want to say they come to a screeching halt, but it significantly slows down in the winter months. And so the first couple of winters were extraordinarily difficult for me. I mean, I remember like coming home and crying because I would like be showing these horses to these prospective buyers, these horse shoppers, and like the horses were perfectly behaved. They did everything exactly like I couldn't have asked for a better horse showing. And then these people would come and be like, okay, thanks. And then you'd be like, we'll think about it. We have more horses to look at. I remember just again and again and again and again. I'm like, oh my gosh, these people are just taking up all of my time. And it was overwhelming and it was scary because obviously like I still had the bills coming in that I had to pay. I had to pay board every single month on the horses because they don't stop eating. And especially leaving the security of that paycheck that had been coming in every single week. I think that was probably one of the biggest obstacles that I had faced after leaving my corporate job. And I think it was just mindset. Like they say, if you ask any successful business mind or entrepreneur, they're going to say it's 20% mechanics and 80% mindset. And the reason behind that is because life is 10% about what happens and 90% of how we respond. And so, whether we believe we can or whether we believe we can't, either way, we're right. So, it's all about how we're viewing what's happening to us. And it's all about the perspective that we take when we're analyzing life. And are we telling ourselves life happens to me, poor me, and adopting a victim role? Or are we stepping in more of like an empowered mindset and saying, no, life doesn't happen to me, life happens for me. And I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be right here, right now. And I know without a shadow of a doubt that everything is going to work out. Not only is it going to work out, but it's going to unfold in beautiful, brilliant ways, better than I had even expected. My expectations are going to be surpassed. And so it's all about the energy that you carry, because our energy is our highest form of currency. And your belief system is essentially what shapes the life that you live. The quality of our life is determined by the quality of thoughts that we're thinking. And so that's why awareness is so important, because so many people are living life unconsciously. They don't realize that they're stuck in patterns of stress, patterns of overwhelm, patterns of fear or lack, and therefore they're thinking thoughts that don't serve them. And because of that, they're attracting life experiences that are not pleasing to them. So
Mm.
if we can become aware of our thoughts, then we can shift our energy and essentially start attracting things that are in alignment with the experiences that we want to have in life, in business, and health, and relationships, in every area.
Hmm. Yes, yes. I love it. I love it. And I identify in my experience though, and personally, life happens, and no matter how much I maybe research and investigate and work to make the best decision I can, I sometimes make decisions that the outcomes are no good, that there is failure involved. And life happens. Like I said, houses burn down, relationships get sour, people get sick and die. These things happen. And, how we get out of that, and how we change that, because we can go negative. I know I
Yeah.
have. I know I've gone negative. I know I've been depressed, and I've had to get myself out of it. So, like, what are some of the tips that you can give somebody who's maybe in a negative space right now they're thinking like their situation that they're in, the obstacles that have happened, the ups and downs, they just feel deflated, and they don't feel like they don't have the energy, and they're not sure maybe even where to think, where to look right now, or where to put the energy. What kind of actionable things that they can do um, to get back on track?
I think one of the fastest things that will help turn around your energy, turn around your mindset, just shift you from like a negative place to like a lighter, more liberated, positive place, is going to be a gratitude practice. If I like to ask people, if like, what is your gratitude practice? There should be some sort of gratitude practice that people are people are exercising every single day, because that is going to retrain your subconscious mind essentially to start to look for the good as you move throughout the day. And even before that, it's really just going to like, there have been times when I have been just really, really sad, or really down in the dumps, or really frustrated, or really angry, or I've been fighting with a spouse, whatever it's been, whatever curveball life throws me. And then every single night, I write out my gratitudes. And I've been doing this for 7 or 8 years now. And it's been life changing. Something that sounds so simple and so easy, and that we take for granted, because at the end of the day, we take a lot for granted. And so, taking 5, 10, 15 minutes during your day, whether it's at the beginning of the day, in the middle of the day, or if really whenever, just sitting down and writing out what you're grateful for, it will immediately shift your vibration and make you feel better. Because we can only focus on one thing at a time. And what we focus on is what we feel. So whether our boss just called us with really bad news, or you're having difficulty with your parents or your children or your spouse, whatever it could be, like that's what you're focused on. And because you're focused on that poor, difficult experience, you're feeling all of the emotions from that. What you focus on is what you feel. And so therefore, when you have a gratitude practice that allows you to step back and really think about everything that you do have to be grateful for,
Yeah.
it really just takes the weight, it lifts the weight right off your shoulders and it shifts your perspective. And then again, it takes you from this, whether you're in a state of anger, frustration, or lack, and it's going to lift you up and put you in the state of gratitude, because you really can't be grateful and angry at the same time. It's absolutely impossible. And then it's like you stack gratitude. Thank you for this day. Thank you for the breath in my lungs. Thank you for my sight. Thank you for my taste buds. Thank you for the delicious food that I was blessed with today. Thank you for positive communication. And like start with the things that are not necessarily external, although the external can help. But if you're
Mm-hmm.
in a situation that doesn't allow you to appreciate a lot of things, then starting internally and being like, thank you for my mind. Thank you for my body. Thank you for my determination. Thank you for my courage. Thank you for my tenacity. Just starting with the things that you own, it'll totally shift you if you're going through anything difficult.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. I mean, I've been doing this for 36 years. I have meditation practice. I do gratitude every morning and every evening. I journal every morning. I do a lot of things to keep my mindset, to stay in that right emotional state. I've been focused every day on sales and influence for 20 something years. And I've got to keep myself in that really heightened emotional state to be totally certain and on point, or it shows in my relationships and stuff. But I think, just asking you the question and listening to, I'm also thinking about something else, is that I know that I find often it's movement that really helps me as well. So it's not just about mindset and focusing on my assets and not my weaknesses, but also in sometimes just moving, just like moving, walking, talking, going to meet somebody and taking those actions, but acting and making some movement going, and then it starts to really start to build up. I feel like I build momentum that way. Certainly, having a strategy to keep the focus on the good and raise my vibrational frequency in all things is that's my goal every day, right? But I've like I said, I've also made some bad mistakes. I've made some errors in judgment. I've got involved in certain people sometimes that things didn't work out, and I then had to get out. But some of them have been very challenging. My first marriage turned out to be very challenging, and it was quite a challenge to get to that point, to change that, which, by the grace of God, I did. It was the hardest thing I ever did in my life. I wanted to talk to you about manifesting too, because, I really identify with what you were talking about manifesting the man of your dreams. Because I feel
Yeah.
that I feel that I manifested the woman of my dreams too. And I wanted to just talk to you about some of the ways that you did that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, also I love that you said that you meditate every morning, because that's like huge. That's one of my if there's one thing that I would recommend everybody start doing immediately that I can guarantee is going to just up level every single area of your life, it's gift yourself 10 or 15 minutes every single morning, and I promise you it is going to change your life. So, that makes me super happy that you do that already. So I love talking about manifestation. It's one of my favorite things. And one of the things people come to me with is they'll be like, Lucie, I want to be a better manifester. Teach me how to manifest. And what I love sharing with people is that you are already an incredible manifester. We are
Mm-hmm.
all magnificent manifestors, creating exactly what it is that we think about, we speak about, and we focus on. So whatever energy it is, we're practicing an energy of abundance and of joy, we're going to we are going to attract more
Mm-hmm.
things that are abundant and joyous. And same thing, like if we're constantly thinking like, oh my God, I don't have enough, lack, I need more money, I don't have enough, then like you're just going to perpetuate that.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to explain that you and your listeners probably already know this, but we live in a vibrational universe, an attraction based universe. And you don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's why I say energy is your highest form of currency, because it doesn't matter what you want, it matters what you are. And it's like that, and becoming aware of the thoughts that you're thinking, the words that you're speaking, and most importantly, really the energy that you're conveying, the energy that you're embodying, because energy is essentially the language of the universe. Frequency, vibration, that's the energy of the universe. And you can't fake that. Like feeling, like how you feel is real. And so whenever you want to manifest anything, there's all sorts of like fun, exciting techniques. Journaling is huge for manifesting, and I'd say journaling and meditation are probably, in my opinion, like some of like the top ways to manifest. So what had happened, so a little bit about my story and how I manifested the man of my dreams
Mm-hmm.
is it was like you could say that it was like a 3-year process. Well, I wouldn't even say a 3-year process, but it was like the first year is when I did absolutely amazing in my business. And like that year I had hit incredible numbers that I didn't even know were possible. And so I'm like, okay, cool. I have like my bank account is like pretty healthy. Awesome. But I'm looking in the mirror and I'm like, I don't there was like a lack of self-love. There was a lack of like self-acceptance. And I didn't feel like, I just didn't like the way that I looked in the mirror. And that was a whole journey. And then I stepped into this whole journey of self-love, and I ended up doing this bikini competition and transforming my body. And it was one of the most incredible journeys that I had experienced. And so in the second year, I really focused on just health and wellness and self-love. And so then I'm like, okay, cool. So I've got the money. I've got like this amazing body that I'm finally like proud of. I can look in the mirror with pride and confidence. And I'm like, but what good is it to have these things if you don't have somebody to share it with? So then on January 1st, I decided, okay, like I'm really good at manifesting exactly what I want, whether it's whether I want to sell a horse or whatever it is. I've always been like really good about just focusing on it and allowing that thing to flow to me. And that's where we get into like intention and surrender and all of those
Mm-hmm.
things. But before that, all right, anyways, so I decided, I'm like, okay, I'm going to be really intentional, and I am sick of cuddling my pillow by myself. I'm like, I really want somebody like extraordinary. And so I got this journal. It was called Project 369. And so what you do is every morning you write down 3 affirmations, every afternoon 6 affirmations, and every night 9 affirmations, 369. So every single day.
Mm-hmm.
And you can really get as creative as you want and really do it any which way you'd like. So whether you want to write the same affirmation, I'm so excited that I manifested the man of my dreams. I'm so excited I manifested the man of dreams 3 times in the morning, 6 times, 9 times. You can do that. But I like to really get super creative with it. So every single day I was writing things like, I'm so grateful that I have found my perfect vibrational match. I am so excited that he's a master chef and loves cooking me healthy meals. I am so grateful that we get to travel the world and go on tropical vacations every other month. I'm so grateful that he loves horseback riding and he loves my German shepherd. And so I just, every single thing that I wanted in somebody, I would just write it out. And it wasn't, I want to say it was about 2 weeks after writing these affirmations every single day that I got a random message on Facebook from this guy that I had met 2 years prior at a real estate investing event. He was one of the speakers there. And like it was just like a casual exchange. that day that we had met, and then we never talked again for 2 years. And then all of a sudden I'm writing this, I'm journaling every single day, 3 times a day, about like this incredible, amazing person that I'm going to be like so proud to have stand next to me and be by my side, all the things. And so sure enough, he sends me a message and he's like, "Hey, how are you doing? I'd love to." He's like, "I know you're in Michigan and I live in St. Louis, but if you're ever in St. Louis, I'd love to catch up and take you out to dinner. I hope you're doing well." And I was like, "My gosh, Eddie." The next week, I already had a plane ticket to go to St. Louis. So then the next week, we ended up going out to dinner on Friday, and we ended up like staying up all night long talking because my plane back to fly back to Michigan was Saturday. And so it was like I've never cared less about possibly missing a flight in my life because I'm like, worst case scenario, I could spend more time with Jason. And so sure enough, I made the flight back home, and we're texting over the weekend. I'm like, "Oh my God, like that was so incredibly magical. Like it just felt so right." And so I'm like, "When do I get to see you again?" And then he's like, "Do you want to?" He's like, Do you want to go to Sedona with me next weekend?" And so then he flew me and Sage, my pup, out first class to go to Sedona. And we spent this like amazing week together, hiking in the vortexes, and it was incredible. So yeah, now we share time between Michigan and St. Louis, and he loves horseback riding, and yeah,
It's amazing. It's amazing, really, and I'm so happy for you that that worked out that way. I have similarly done that and many other things to being intentional and journaling and making affirmations. When I converted the software company that I had, it was my mantra every day when I meditated: I'm going to have $900,999 in the bank by the end of the year. And I just kept saying that over and over and over again. And on the 23rd day of December, I had, very little in the bank for the business, just whatever. And on the 23rd day, I happened to have a meeting with an investor who gave us $1 million to launch the company finally. And
I just
so
got chills. I love that.
so it's like, it really does work. But going back, there was something that you said that was important, and I think is that when you talked about being honest with yourself. That's obviously very important. And you talked about that there were things maybe that you didn't like about yourself that you wanted to change, right? So we look at the different areas of our life at different times with is this really in this area? Is this working at where I want it to be? Or am I lacking in this area? And I know health has been a big thing. I mean, I lost 200 pounds, but still I have some health issues, and I got to constantly show up and take care of it and change the way I eat and the way I exercise and the things I do to stay in good health and to keep my health there. So, I mean, obviously, you have to be taking care of yourself. You have to, like, if you have bad habits, if you have negative, limiting beliefs and ideas, you want to, when they come out, when you see them, when you're aware of them, then you need to do something about them. But yeah, I did the same thing, with finding my soulmate. I like that term a lot, actually. And one of the things I did was I like to do things physically as well, and so I cleaned out the dresser so there would be a dresser for her to use. I emptied half the closet so there'd be half a closet, and I
Yes,
made room in the driveway so that another car could park there and stuff like that.
I love that.
I open myself up and open up the world so there'll be a space for this new stuff to come in. If you don't have the
Yeah,
space, the new stuff has nowhere to go, right?
totally.
Yeah, but I think all those things that we're talking about is vital for us to live intentionally and to stay in that zone where we can find it. We need to find that zone. We need to be in there, and we need to. These things are all out there already. They just need to, like, come into our lives, right?
Yes, exactly.
And so opening myself up for that so that, these things can happen, that's great. Because, I mean, how many times have you remembered in the past that maybe you had an opportunity that was standing right there in front of you, but you just didn't recognize it when it was there? And now, years later, you're like, wow, that was an opportunity there that I missed. I didn't even see it. Yeah. So, yeah, I think it's great. Let's talk a little bit now about your subconscious, reprogramming your subconscious. What's your take on reprogramming your subconscious and changing your thought processes and your limiting beliefs?
Yeah. So gosh, it's so exciting for me to really dive into subconscious mind because it's like our subconscious mind is our paradigm, is our belief system. And we are where we are because of our paradigm. If we're feeling stuck, it's because we're stuck in a story, because we're stuck in belief systems. And if we take a step back and really analyze our lives, we'll quickly realize that our life is nothing more than a sequence of different patterns, that these patterns are just running unconsciously. We are by nature creatures of habit, and we like to do the same things every single morning, every single afternoon, every single evening. And we get stuck in these patterns. And these patterns,
And we actually build our life around it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so there's patterns of focus, what we choose to focus on, how we choose to see the world, if we're choosing to show up as like a victim or a victor. Um, Patterns of language, the words that we're using, and in that little voice in our head, that internal dialogue. And not only that, but also the conversations that we're choosing to participate in, the people that we're choosing to surround ourselves with. All of that, like the language that we're using, really can totally shift the energy of an experience, the outcome of an experience. And then finally, just like you said, patterns of physiology. And I agree that physiology, even if you don't take the time to write out a list of gratitude, like if you're having a hard time, like if you just get up and you start, like if you put on music and you just start dancing, like you're instantly going to
Exactly.
feel better. If you start moving your body totally different than you're used to moving it, you are going to feel like a totally different person. And so we get stuck in these patterns of physiology where it's like, how many days a week are you getting out in nature, going for a walk, going for a run? How many days a week are you hitting the gym? Are you lifting weights? How many, and like what gets your heart beating and gets blood rushing through your veins? Like all of that, like your mind and your body are very, very intrinsically connected. And so a lot of times we fall into these patterns, and these patterns of thought, these patterns of belief, really a lot of times they don't serve us. If we know that people think on average 60 to 70 thoughts, I'm sorry, 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day, and 90% of those thoughts are all negative, and we know that our thoughts create our reality, then it's like, what kind of reality are we creating? And to that point, if 90% of the thoughts that we think today are the same thoughts that we're going to think tomorrow and the day after, it's like, how much of a change do we really expect to see? How can we create lasting change in our lives, in our health, in our relationship, in our finances, if we're constantly thinking the same things, feeling the same emotions, and responding the same ways? So it's kind of like you are where you are today based on every single decision that you've made up until this point. So if you want radically new, just like new results, an incredible new future, if you want six-pack abs, amazing relationships, financial freedom, and you're not already experiencing that, that means that you're going to have to change what you're doing, because if you keep doing what you've always done, you'll just continue to experience what you've always had. And so that's why when we kind of break into the idea of this subconscious mind, it's like this, your subconscious mind is keeping you stuck where you're at based on the current beliefs that you hold. And so that's why meditation is such an incredibly powerful practice, because the definition of meditation means to become aware of oneself. And we can't change what we're unaware of. All change is preceded by awareness. So that's why not only is meditation going to just elevate your vibration. It's going to make you feel lighter, more liberated, more free. It's going to wash away all of your worries, all of your all of your stress, all of your fear. But at the same time, it's going to allow you to become aware of the thoughts that you're thinking. It's going to allow you to become aware
Mm.
of the thoughts that, or I'm sorry, of the emotions that you're feeling. And a lot of times, again, people are just running on these unconscious patterns. And once we shine the light of awareness on those unconscious patterns, they no longer have control over us. That's when we
Mm.
take back control. It's when we take our power back. And then we're like, wait, I'm thinking a thought that doesn't serve me. Or wait, why am I feeling this way? Why do I feel so angry right now? Why am I yelling? Like, this isn't who I am. This isn't how I want to show up. And then it's like you take a step back, and all of a sudden, you become the observer of your thoughts. And you realize a belief is nothing more than a thought that you keep thinking. So if you have beliefs that don't serve you, instead of fighting for that belief, instead of defending your belief system, why don't we start questioning? Why don't we start challenging? Why don't we start pushing the envelope on what we believe to be possible? Because once we start doing that, is when we start experiencing just incredible doors of opportunity opening up before us, possibilities presenting that are presented to us, and just miracles are instantly manifested, as it seems very apparent that you've done time and time again.
Yeah, I've come to a place in my spiritual practice several years ago, 10, 12 years ago, where I just really don't care what I think or feel. I'm focused on what it is I'm doing. I live with intention. These are the things I'm working for, and I just keep working towards those things. I don't worry about it too much. And I was just thinking, though, when I work with other people, a lot of times I say, you know what? Why don't you just try doing everything differently? Like if you wake up in the morning and you usually put your left shoe on first, why don't you start putting your right shoe on first? Why don't you just try what it feels like to just do things differently? For a little while to kind of break some of those patterns that you have and be open to that. But I love it. I love it. I love what we're talking about. I know that, like, to unleash your unrealized potential, to dig in, to know that you have the greatness inside of you. There's been so many people who have said it so eloquently. Like Zig Ziglar talking about we have the seeds of greatness inside of us. We were designed for accomplishment. Succeeding is what we're made for. And to think anything else is a lie. So when we talk about those things, how do you help people to unleash their unrealized potential?
Um, it's like a three-step process. So the first step is understanding energy, your state, and how to control your state. So we talked about how energy is your highest form of currency, and how when you start to begin to become aware of the thoughts that you're thinking, the emotions that you're feeling, and how you're responding, your power is now. It's in the now precious moment.
Mm-hmm.
And when you respond with love, kindness, and compassion, when you respond with grace, it's going to very vividly affect the result, or yeah, essentially the result of the following circumstances. So it's like when you take back control of your inner world, you start to begin to manipulate or control your outer world, because essentially external, we don't have control over our external world. We can't change what that person's doing or how they're acting or what they're
Exactly.
thinking. We can only control our inner state. So once we begin to take back control of ourselves, it's like all change starts with ourselves. And when we shift our energy, or when we shift our perspective, and we really get control of ourselves, of our thoughts, of our emotions, understanding what potentially triggered us, then it's like we take back control of our lives. So that's the first thing, is really understanding energy, and that we live in an attraction based universe. The second thing is desire. And what I do is I help people get crystal clear on exactly what it is that they want to create in life. What do they want their life to look like? I love asking people, if you could have life any way you wanted it, what would your life look like? If you had unlimited resources and money was of no concern, what would your life look like? Where would you live? How would you spend your day? What would your morning routine look like? And a lot of times people immediately go to, oh, well, I wouldn't want this, and I wouldn't want this, and I don't want that. And it's just like society has us so trained to focus on what we don't want and focus on the negative, that again, where your focus goes, your energy flows. And where you're constantly focused on what you don't want, you're just going to perpetually attract more of that. And so again, it's shift. Those gratitude practices will allow you to shift, retrain your subconscious mind to look for the good, the silver lining, the lessons learned in all things. And so once you have that vision of exactly what you want your life to look like in health and fitness, in your relationships, in your finances, in spirituality, and then just like lifestyle adventure, what do you want to what do you want to, like, life is meant to be lived and enjoyed. Those are the 5 areas that we like to dive deep into. And then you have your vision and you're reading it every day, and when you're reading it every day, you are essentially activating your RAS, your reticular activating system. So therefore, again, you're implanting those ideas into your subconscious mind, because we move towards what we're most familiar with. And if we're reading these beautiful visions of the life that we want to create, and we spend time thinking about them, daydreaming about them, fantasizing them, really embodying the emotions of the desire fulfilled, we will start to collapse timelines and allow that thing, that person, that experience to step into our 3D reality. So it's really, really important to have a crystal clear vision on exactly what you want your life to look like. And then the third step is belief. And this is probably the most important step, because belief is what bridges the gap between where you're at and where you want to be. And the reason for that is because you can know with total clarity exactly what you want your life to look like. You can have a beautiful vision written up, but if you don't believe that you're worthy, if you don't believe that you're able, if you don't believe that you're capable of attaining or achieving said thing, that thing that you most long for is always going to be just out of reach. And so that's why it's so important when we talk about identity work and transforming your identity. It's like your subconscious mind will never outperform or out succeed the image of yourself that you hold of yourself. It will never out succeed your own concept of self. And so many people, myself included, have like, we don't think that we're worthy of greatness, or we don't think that we're special, or we don't think that we're able, or whatever limiting beliefs it is that we hold. We have to create a much larger image of ourselves, a much greater concept of self, that I am worthy, I am capable, I am able, I am deserving, and really practice that and say that with authority and intention. And when you start saying those, like we talk about affirmations that you write out, and then Tony Robbins talks about incantations. It's like affirmations, but you're speaking them. And not only are you speaking them, you're like putting out that energy, because you're speaking it with emotion. And emotion is really what's going to just lock in whatever it is that you're speaking, whatever it is that you want to create. Belief is the last pillar, because if you want new results and you want an incredible new reality, you are essentially going to have to do new things and become a totally different person that does totally different things. Kind of like what you're saying is just do everything differently. And when people, I like to say, I just read it in a book. It was become like a moth to the flame of your desire, and just give yourself away and release any limiting beliefs that you have, any old habits that don't serve you, and just really imagine what the highest version of yourself looks like. So what does the $1 million version of you look like? How do they dress? How do they speak? How do they carry themselves? What does their energy and their presence say about them? And more importantly, what does their belief system look like? What do they believe to be true about the world, about business, about money, about relationships, about health? What do they believe to be true? And how do those beliefs differ from your current beliefs? And then it's like you have to ask yourself, well, let me let go of my current belief system, and let me adopt this person's, that my highest version of myself. Let me adopt their belief system. And then it's like you're adopting their belief system, you're adopting their energy. And once you become that energetically, it's like you're leveling up, and therefore you're attracting the lifestyle that person has.
Yeah. I identify with that. And, one thing that I have found to be very true for me is this idea of unrealized potential, is that, I have a second, third, and fourth gear that I haven't even touched many times. there's more inside of me. And how this is played out in my life often is actually because when I'm around other people who are doing things, like, you have to change people, places, and things. If you hang around with people who are of low energy, who aren't doing anything with their lives, who are just living their life in the same pattern every day, then that's what you'll end up doing. But if you hang out with people who are also trying to do something great, trying to be more than what they are, trying to hit at a higher level and live at a higher frequency, it rubs off on you, and you then, want to do it too. And like, there's some internal dynamics here for me that have to do with like motivation and desire that happens through other people. Like, I get energy from other people is where I get a lot of energy from. So hanging around with those people fills me with a lot of energy. And then I'm like, okay, well, now they can do that, so I can do it. And now I want to do the level they're doing. Maybe I could beat them. Maybe we go head to head, and I try to compete and beat them and do even more. So like, this whole process, it feeds upon itself to get just better and better and better. Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. It's so important to surround yourself with people that not only are like breathing belief into you, but that are also inspiring you, and really like the movers and the shakers and the influencers. And even if you can't spend time, even if like your circle isn't that great, like that's why like the podcasts are so important, and investing in mentors
Hmm.
yeah, it's one of the things that has allowed me to just be where I'm at today is through the help of wise, successful individuals.
Yeah, it's amazing that many people don't really believe in the idea of investing in themselves and bettering themselves. It's interesting.
There's no higher ROI than investing in yourself.
Absolutely. I mean, God gave me certain gifts that I have, and that's all I really have. And then I have this desire to serve others, because I find serving gets me, the more I give, the more I receive. That's just the simplicity of it. And it's not always like, if I give to the right, that doesn't mean that I'm going to get to the right. Sometimes I get from the left, right? It goes around and
Yeah,
around. It's not a
yeah.
one-on-one thing. But the thing is that understanding that that's the way it is, then I want to invest in myself, in this body, in this mind, to make it the best and strongest that it can be. Because if you can control the what's between your ears and master that, I mean, I know you can't control it, but if you can master it so that it's going to work for you, it's like a piece of software, right? I have this CRM I have to use every day, and like, sometimes I feel like I'm a slave to the CRM, but no, actually, that's not the truth. The truth is, the CRM is there to work for me. So I feel the same way about my body and my health and my mental state. Like, all that's there to serve me, so that I can reach the goals that I want to reach, and make the impact in life that I want to, impact. And once you start doing that, like, you can't stop. Like, I just don't know, like, why would you stop? Like, once you start getting the rewards, you get the benefits, and the miracles start happening, you're like, to
Yeah.
just stop, it's like, why would you do that ever?
You can't. It just feels too good to contribute
Hmm.
and to serve others. And it's just like you see the difference that you're making in the world. And you once you start, you can't stop. It's
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we've talked about a lot of stuff, Lucy. I've really enjoyed our time together. But, before we wrap it up, is there anything that we haven't discussed that you want to talk about?
Yeah, so we have a 16-week program that allows people to very intentionally rewire their subconscious mind and transform their identity so that way they can start taking massive action towards their goals. And what we've done is we've condensed this down into a 2-hour training that's broken up into like a 6-part series. And normally this training retails on our website for $1,000. However, we have a promo code, so the promo code is transform your future for your podcast. Um, if you go onto the website is ultimatesuccessblueprint.com, you can go ahead and type in promo code transform your future, and you will be able to download this free training at absolutely no cost and start implementing these strategies, these tools, these techniques in your life today. So that way you can just start in instantaneously manifesting the things that you wish to create in life. And the second thing is we have a really, really cool Facebook community. Um, it's called Transformation Nation. And every single day, we're pouring out content just to inspire, to uplift, and essentially help people start putting in just practicing better habits that are allowing them to become the best versions of themselves mentally, physically, financially, and spiritually. And every single Friday inside of Transformation Nation, I do a live gratitude meditation. So whether people are seasoned meditators or it's just people that have heard about meditation, are kind of
Mm-hmm.
curious about it, don't know where to start, I am here to help. I'm here to serve, and I would love to just guide you along the way. It's 10:30 Eastern, Transformation Nation. If you guys look on Facebook, you can find me at Lucie's Bubble, Lucies Bubble. Instagram is Coach Lucielyn, Lucielyn. And I'd love to have you there.
Yeah.
So
Thank you so much for those great resources. I'm going to download that course for sure. Um, I always could use more. You know, I eat it up, drink it every day.
I love it. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for having me today.
Yeah. And I'll put everything in the show notes and I'll keep in touch and, maybe we could do this again.
I would love that.
Excellent. Thank you so much.